Alright, so what's up guys? So we're out here on another run. Out here doing this craziness for all you guys who simply sit back, watch, admire, and enjoy as we're having a little bit of technical difficulties with our knee strap, but we're figuring that out right now. Getting that ready to go, and so we can be off on our run as we are right now. And you know, for you, a big topic of yours, specifically within the mind, is your programming, what you put into it and how you interpret it, right? And for many people, they can make huge mistakes in this area, and you know, it can be very easy to fall prey to negative influences, all kinds of negative and destructive thought patterns. And for you in particular, given all these circumstances within the world, you want to figure out ways to reprogram your mind, right? Set it straight, put it in the right direction so you can keep enjoying the success that you are attaining or working towards. So don't worry, because we are going to give you 4 ways to reprogram your mind, put it on the right path. And without further ado, we are going to give you tip number 1, and this is to figure out your calling. Why were you put on this earth, right? Do you want to be a doctor, or do you want to be a lawyer or an engineer, or you know, what trade do you want to work in? Really stop and figure out what career you want to do so you can direct your mind towards it, because so many of us don't really figure out what it is that we want to do until very late in life. And that's okay, that's fine. But you know, had we known sooner, we would have been able to take better and more appropriate action, right? And have more years of training under our belt. We would have had, say, we started at a young age, right? We'd had more years thinking as a doctor, if you want to be a doctor, right? Whatever example or career that you want to do. And you know, it takes some reprogramming, and one big aspect of our minds is what we are doing on this earth, right? What you're working as. And you know, that big factor, figuring out what it is that you want to do for your career, is going to only put you in the right path, right? For those thought patterns and thought processes. Because if you don't know, you're simply going to stagnate and wander and get lost, right? And part of the proper reprogramming is losing, you know, that, how you say, yeah, lostness, right? You finding the path, finding the journey, right? Because it's not, how can you be, you know, in the journey if you haven't even found where you're going? You have no idea what to do, right? It'd be foolish to be like pretty much taking a step in any direction, but you haven't figured out your destination, right? You don't know how to get there. You don't have the map, right? Let's say you're in Miami and you want to go to Toronto, and you just turn and point and start walking that way. How do you know that you're going to end up in Toronto if, you know, you walk that way, right? It's almost blind faith. You're just hoping that some inspiration comes your way, some lucky occurrence for you to figure out what the right direction is. But if you figure out exactly which direction Toronto is, you can start walking, but as far as it may be, right? As long as you're moving in the right direction, your mind will do the work for you. But it's that first step, right? And figuring out where it is that you want to go. And, you know, once you're going there, in order to reprogram your mind, you have to reprogram it in the process mindset, right? Not the end goal, right, of reaching Toronto, right? Although you may want to do that, no one's to blame you, right? It's not bad to want to get there. It's actually amazing. You want to have that goal. But while you're out there, while you're on the journey, you have to focus on just that, right? Forget so much about the end goal and put your mind in the mindset of, you know, being on that journey, being on the progress towards Toronto, right? Because that's all that's going to matter to you. And once you get there, you'll get there, right? You'll be having and reaping that success. But it's a long trip, it's a long journey, right? And that's what life is all about. Life is the longest journey that we have, right? And it literally is all we have, right? Because once the journey's over, our time here is finished. So while you're here, enjoy it, right? You don't necessarily have to have everything right now, and that's okay, right? Just to reprogram your mind, you have to be content and focus on what it is you're working towards, right? You don't necessarily have to be happy with nothing, although that's great. But if you have the mental programming of someone that's happy working on what they're doing, no matter the outcome, that's the ideal position to be in, because you are growing, right? Because if you're just happy where you are right now, that's great. But 1, 2, 5 years down the road, you still think like that while you're in the same place, you know, you haven't really made those marks of progress, right? Which is going to take that mindset of being process oriented, worrying about the progress of things, right? And not the end result. And once you reach your goals, you have to not stop there, right? Because for so many of us, our mind can program us when we reach a goal. We want to stop, we want to give up, but the work is just getting started. Like we mentioned, we are always going to be on that mission of life, and while you're here, you have the potential to do great things. And it's not to say that you're always supposed to be working, but when you have the success, realize that the pleasure of that success is only temporary. The real pleasure is going to come from the work, right? So you got to learn how to handle that success the right way. You can't let it get to your head, develop an ego, and stop there, right? Because when the losses start to stack up, right? Because we're not human. I mean, we're not perfect beings. We're only human. We're going to fail. We're going to lose. If you win so much and that starts to happen, starts to get a little bit of failure, you can feel horrible and lose motivation, right? And get into a slump and have issues mentally. And that can happen to many people. But if you have that mindset of being stone cold, right? Same face, win or lose, whatever outcome, you are gonna have that proper programming, right? You're gonna be able to reprogram your mind for that success, right? Overall success, right? Not just a success as we were looking at our watch, but, you know, learning how to handle it correctly. And, you know, another way to reprogram your mind is you simply teach others, instruct them, right? Because it gives you perspective. It lets you see things from an outside lens, outside perspective, right? You start to learn new ways of going about things. You start to develop sympathy and, you know, make relations to where you were before, right? And when you go back to doing these things, you will become a master, right? Very skilled. Because I'll bring up even the example of jiu-jitsu, karate, right? There's only a certain point that once you get your black belt, you're not going to really be training so much anymore, right? You're going to be teaching, you're going to be pushed to do that. And that's not as a coincidence, because once you learn the basic principles of whatever it is that you're doing, you have a decent handle on them. Why not teach others? Because it's only going to make you better at what you do. It's going to reframe your mind and give you a better perspective of it. Right? Because if you simply solely do things and don't share them with others, you will almost be one-dimensional. You only have one perspective, that first person perspective. But to see things from the third person, from a holistic point of view, you have to become that teacher and deal with different personalities and have those same goals, that same vision that you are striving for. Right? So, you know, these are the 4 ways to reprogram your mind. As always, we say thank you very much and goodbye.